Maryland schools are facing a crisis. In the 2023-24 school year, more than 44,000 students were suspended, impacting our most vulnerable populations and feeding the school-to-prison pipeline. Black students accounted for 56% of suspensions. Students with disabilities accounted for 22%. During that same school year, over 200,000 students missed school regularly. More than 30% of middle and high school students reported feeling sad or hopeless. Among girls, the percentage was nearly 50%. Nearly 7,000 teachers did not return to teaching in the 2023-24 school year. These facts contributed to persistent opportunity and achievement gaps. Maryland is better than this. We can change each school's culture. How? It's called restorative practices.
I'm looking for brave and sincere apologies to start us off. Silent hand, who has one? Track him.
I want to apologize to Miss Bentu for talking in her class while I was still trying to focus and not listening when I've been trying my best.
Yeah. LGP. Really good example of an apology. We move to our acknowledgments. Stand on up. Tracker.
I would like to acknowledge my sister for doing her best in track.
LGP. Love a family acknowledgement.
Restorative practices definitely impacts the climate and culture of the school. It helps everyone see and hear each other, and that makes it much easier to focus on teaching and learning.
Because of restorative practices, when people step foot in this building, they feel that something is different about this place.
You know, it's all about building relationships. So you cannot be a highly effective teacher if you don't have relationships with your scholars.
Restorative practices is great because we know as teachers, each class has their own culture, has their own pulses, and circles allow them to really come into their own and feel that. It's what I start every single class with, and it sets the tone for my students.
It's absolutely a preventative measure. We do circles every day. Circles is a key component of restorative practices. And there are two kinds of circles, proactive circles and reactive circles. Reactive circle, of course, you do when something happens, but proactive circles are something that you do every day. They help in a classroom to develop a sense of community within the class, to build relationships with the teachers and the students and the students and the students. And if circles are done in a proactive way, it certainly does serve to be a preventative measure.
So every day when my students come into my classroom, we get into circle. And what that looks like is I ask a circle question to the kids. And then students take a second to think, and then they physically stand up and get into a circle.
And you're able to go around, you have a talking piece, and you're able to have everyone give an answer. I really get to know the scholars get to know each other, themselves. We're able to talk about maybe some challenges that they've had, and they're able to find similarities that way. And those things come together for us to really have a really good classroom culture.
Giving students the opportunities to feel like they matter and their voices matter, I think is the core of restorative practices.
Restorative practices create schools that are respectful, inclusive, safe, empowering, accountable. A report citing data from Johns Hopkins University, the University of Maryland School of Law, and the Open Society Institute, Baltimore, shows the results of a study indicating the positive impact of restorative practices. School suspensions dropped by 44% in 1 year. 72% of school staff reported improved school climate. 69% of staff reported improved student respect for one another. And 64% of school staff reported improved student respect for staff. In California, a multi-year study was conducted examining the use of restorative practices in 485 middle schools. The study showed that schools with restorative practices saw a decrease in misbehavior, substance abuse, and mental health challenges, as well as improved school climate and student achievement. For example, Increased exposure to conflict resolution practices, a component of restorative practices, during the transition from 5th to 6th grade significantly improved standardized test performance in language arts and math, as well as decreased the probability and length of suspensions. Students of all racial and ethnic backgrounds benefited from restorative practices, with Black and Latine students benefiting the most. Many of the best restorative practices schools employ a full-time restorative practices coach. The principal sets the example by modeling the respectful behavior promoted by restorative practices. Ongoing training and reinforcement in restorative practices are provided for all staff, whether they're working in the cafeteria, teaching in a classroom, or serving as an administrator.
Everyone wants to come to school or wants to come to work if they feel like they're seen and heard and that somebody knows them. A 10-minute circle 3 times a week will drive all of the indicators in the right direction.
Yet what one sees in a restorative practices school is far from cookie cutter. Each school has custom needs that grow out of an emphasis on community building, relationships, trust, and valuing others. Therefore, you could see a wide variety of practices in a school with restorative practices beyond the circle, such as a cell phone-free environment, peer mediation, increased leadership development, various accountability and conflict resolution tactics. Restorative practices work at all school levels, from kindergarten through high school.
It's been great to see Zoe so involved as she is with the restorative practices program here. It really carries over at home and with her interaction with her siblings and the way she speaks about her friends and their interactions, and just I can really tell that those character building elements are reflected in her relationships that she's building.
I love circles. I feel like the program has made me so much more enjoyable to be around, but it also makes me more empathetic and more understanding.
A couple years ago, I was a conflict kid. I used to be in a lot of drama. I used to kind of pick on girls, kind of in a sort of way. Dr. Kettle always saying we should have empathy and integrity. That's what made me just want to focus on what them words mean. How would I feel if I was getting bullied or picked on by the same person every day? So I had to put myself inside the girls that I was arguing with.
Restorative practices are an evidence-based strategy. They reduce suspensions, chronic absenteeism, teacher turnover, mental health challenges, and help narrow the opportunity and achievement gap that reveals how persistently we continue to fail Black students, non-native English speakers, students with disabilities, and students from low-income families.
Our academic outcomes have improved because teachers are actually able to teach every day. And our suspension rates have gone down significantly. You know, one of the misconceptions of restorative practices is that there's no consequences. And I think that there's been times when I've presented my suspension data and people have thought, well, you just stopped suspending kids. And that is absolutely not true. The reason why our suspensions were reduced is because children stopped doing things that warranted suspension. Kids will do what you want them to do because of the relationship that you have with them, not because of some poster with consequences written on it that you have posted on the wall.
In 2024, Hampstead Hill Academy's 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students, their middle schoolers, were in the upper 3% of all middle schools in the state, and their 3rd to 5th graders were in the upper 14% of elementary schools statewide, all in a highly diverse school of 900 pre-K to 8th grade students.
I attribute a lot of Hampstead Hill's success to restorative practices, and it is definitely the magic or the secret that I would want everyone to know about. Teacher and student attendance go up, suspension and detention goes down, academic achievement goes up. The culture that we've created here is the single thing that drives our success.
Restorative practices are not something that we do. Restorative is something that we are.
Every student deserves to be in a restorative practices school, giving them the chance to reach their full potential. It's time we enable every Maryland school to embed restorative practices in their culture. How can you help?
Talk to your school's administrators, Board of Education, and PTA about restorative practices.
Tell your elected officials what a big difference restorative practices can make in making a school like yours successful.
Tell your neighbors, friends, and families about the power of restorative practices and how it can change our schools.
Students deserve a school where they feel safe and can thrive. Help make it happen. The future of Maryland students depends on us. Join the movement.